What's up, friends of YouTube? Welcome back to another workflow video. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a love song. So it's a little bit of clickbait because even though I made this a love song, you can actually make this into any theme you want, really. I just chose the theme love because it fit the beat. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into it and show you what I did here. So this is the beat Perception, which is for sale, exclusive sale on my website, as well as lease. As soon as somebody purchases the exclusive rights, I will have to take down this video and all that content because I will no longer be the exclusive owner. So until then, this is the beat. This video is going to show you exactly how I made the beat, and I'm also going to show you a little sample of vocals that I put in there, as well as songwriting that I did. So let's begin by playing the beat one time through. And this is going to be without the vocals. Whoops, I apologize for that. I accidentally stopped the beat, but it's alright because if you guys want to hear the full beat, you can hear it on my YouTube channel, the beat Perception. So I'm just going to go ahead and play what I was talking about earlier. So I'm going to play the section where I came up with some vocals, I guess. I did a little bit of songwriting. So I'm going to go ahead and play it. I'm going to warn you guys right now, it's very cheesy. So let's go ahead and play it, and just to give you guys an idea of how this beat could be turned into a love song. You're a complicated woman, I can't do shit without you. I'm a red girl, and I can't live on without you. Cause I want you, cause I need you. Why can't you see that you're the one? The only woman in my dreams, you see. Complicated woman, I can't do shit without you. I'm a wreck 'cause I want you, 'cause I need you. Why can't you see that you're the one, the only woman in my dreams you see? Alright, so those are the vocals that I came up with, and I also came up with the songwriting. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys exactly how I made this beat. When I created this beat, I did not have the intention of creating a love song. It was only after I finished it that I realized, hey, you know, this could really work. So I might actually make this into a full song if nobody buys the exclusive rights. But who knows? Let me just get into how I made this. So first thing I did, I started with a sample like I usually do. So let me see if I can locate the one I used. It was a Nick Myra sample, and I don't remember exactly which one, so I'm gonna try to find it. So if you give me a few seconds here, I should be able to locate it. So it's gonna be in this pack. Nick Myra. Oh boy, I don't remember which one. So the name of it is Settle Down. So I just need to find the Settle Down folder. Should be one of these. Let's see. I have a lot of files. You know what I'm going to do actually? I'm going to search. So I'm going to hit Control F, and I'm going to... Actually, I need to search in the right folder, so let me exit out of that. So in this folder, I'm going to search for Settle Down. Should be able to locate it here. Settle Down. Alright, so let's see. This is what I used. This is the original sample. Alright, so the only thing I took from that was the main layer 1. So that's going to be Settle Down A. The second one is this one here. Okay, so those are the only two samples that I used. Everything else I programmed myself. As you can see, for the beginners out there, the transparent sections are the MIDI keys that I inputted either using the MIDI keyboard or the keyboard MIDI pad, which would look something like this. Hold on, that's a pattern. Let me find one for you. Something like that. So I just went ahead and inputted it myself. After I did that, I bounced it to a WAV file, which would look like this, so that it would be easier to mix, so that I can export the trackouts later for a variety of reasons. So with that said, let's go ahead and continue on. So after I got that sample, I usually do my little trick here that I'm known for, I guess. I would transpose it down and match that by tuning it in the opposite direction. So I only did it one down and tuned it up one. So this is what the new sample sounds like. So of course there's some mixing in there as well. That's why it sounds a little different. So if I go to the mixer, you can see here I have 3 mix effects added to it, as well as an echo and panning as well. And I also have reverb, so it's going to sound way different. Alright, so Settlement B, or Settle Down B, this is what it sounds like. Alright, so I did the same thing. I transposed it down one, tuned it up one. Alright, so now that I got those two in place, this is what they sound like together. After I heard that, I decided, okay, I'm gonna make a beat out of those two samples. So I went ahead and started with the drums. I started with the clap. And for the first clap, I'm using an instance of sample 1, and I'm using a trap clap. I'm not gonna bother searching for the folder because there's too many. I don't remember where I got it. But this is what the clap sounds like. And please keep in mind that it has been mixed. Alright, after I did that clap, I started adding other elements, and such as the hi-hat. So for the hi-hat, I used with a closed hat sample. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and start adding each element as I go so you can see how my thought process was when I was producing this. So far we have 4 sounds together. Alright, so the next thing I thought about adding was the 808. So for the 808, I'm going to pull it up here for you guys. I believe I used Contact. Alright, I used Maschine 2, which is this machine here. And I used Contact, but for some reason it's not loaded up right now. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. So double click, here we are. I used the Sub-Zero 808 and I used 6 North 808 long. So here's what the 808 sounds like by itself. This is what it sounds like with the other instruments. So this is the order that I produced it in as well. After this, I thought, time to bring in the kick. As you see. Here's what the kick sounds like by itself. And this is what I used for the kick. Hold up a second. Something went wrong here. Alright. It won't let me click it for some reason. Okay, there it is. Sorry about that. So I used a sample one with go to kick. And I'm going to try to move a little bit faster because I think we're taking up too much time here. So after the kick, I went ahead and put in some perk sounds and the snare. So I went ahead and finished the whole drum pattern. So this is what the drums sound like by themselves. So I used a snare after that, and the snare was also another instance of sample 1, and this is the snare that I used. This is what the snare sounds like by itself. Whoops. Alright, so one thing to note for all the drum patterns, as you can see here, pattern 1, pattern 2. Now, let me show you what I did. So if I double click, I have this new sequencer for Studio 1.4, which makes it very easy just to program in the kicks and the snares and claps, everything basically. As well as the velocity down here, you can also have them repeat, which is great for hi-hats, and the probability as well to make them sound more lifelike. Alright, so that's what I did for all the drums, and I also did that for the 808. I also programmed the 808 pattern using the same method. Okay, so after I got all the drums in place, the 808 in place, those 2 samples, I started developing the beat more. I put in a riser. So I was also arranging at this point. So here's the riser that I used, the Pleasant Sweep riser. And let me show you what it sounds like. Well, I'm going to solo it first and show you what it sounds like.
Zaandam.
Whoops, that's the beat tag. So let me just go ahead and do the beat tag real quick, just to get it out of the way.
Zaandam music.
And for the beat tag, all I did was put my beat tag file into a sample 1, and I just programmed the pattern, which is the 1C3 note right there. Alright, so back to the riser. This is what the riser sounds like. My bad, that was the riser down sweep. So I have 2 risers. I have a riser up sweep and a riser down sweep. So let me show you the up sweep first, actually. So here's the up sweep. All right, and here is the down sweep. And this is both of them together. And this is what it sounds like in context. Can't live on. So it's very subtle, but it gives it a nice little effect. And for the down sweep, I also used an instance of the Razer, but I used the chordal fall. All right, so I showed you all that. The microphone, I will show you later on when I get into the mixer. All right, so the next thing after I did the effects, the beat tag, the Razer, all that, I started adding more effects. I added an exhale pad. I felt like it was time to pad the sound a little bit to fill in some more frequency ranges. So I put in an instance of exhale, which is through Contact. I put in an instance of exhale, and I used the Merfolk preset, which is in the pad category. And this is what it sounds like when I solo it. And this is what it sounds like in context with the other dominant sounds. So it's very subtle. It just gives it a nice little ambient feel to it. I really like how that turned out. So after I did that, I needed some more. I needed to add some more to the intro, I felt. So I decided to take the sample, the settle down A sample, and reverse it. So that's why this is the reverse sound. And I put it in certain sections. It looks like I started from half of the intro all the way to the first half of the outro. This is what the reverse sounds like by itself. This is what it sounds like with the original. With the pad. And with settlement B. I don't know why I keep calling it settlement. It's actually settled down. Okay, so after I got all that down, I still needed another sound. So I went ahead and opened up an instance of Omnisphere. And I'll show you here what sound I used. Omnisphere takes a little while to load sometimes. For Omnisphere... Oh, it won't even let me click on it. Basically, I felt like it needed a little more in the chorus. So I went into Omnisphere. And I chose, through Keyscape, I chose the Rhodes LA Custom Lush. And I just programmed it in myself, a few little patterns that I thought would sound nice. And here's what I came up with. Alright, one thing to note, I just remember what I did here. I'm going to go ahead and show you something that I was experimenting with. Basically, I started doing some pitch bending. So I was playing the piano live, and I went ahead and did some automation by pitch bending after. So I programmed it first, right? I programmed the MIDI pattern first. Then I went ahead and recorded on top of it a pitch bend on my MIDI keyboard. So that's what you see down here is the pitch bend. So I'm going to play it one more time so you can see how the pitch bend works within this graph. And let me go ahead and grab the right sound. And it gives it a cool effect, I thought, so that's how I did that. And I believe that's the very last sound here. I showed you everything else. Great, so let's go ahead and move into the arrangement real quick. So let me show you how I arrange this. First of all, the beat is in the key of D sharp minor, and we are in the tempo of 134. Let's see here. The complete beat is going to be around 3 minutes and 20 seconds. And I decided to have 3 choruses, 2 verse, an intro, and an outro. So starting with the intro, I start with the pad or the exhale sound and the settle down A and B, and I start building it up by adding the reverse, the riser, the beat tag, and the clap. Now, in the chorus, I add everything in the drums that I can for the chorus because the chorus has the most energy in the song. So I introduce the 808. I introduced the kick with the 808. The snare was actually introduced in the 3/4 section here of the intro, as well as the perk sound, just for a little bit here. And this was through trial and error. You know, I was playing around with it for a while to see what would work best. Let me show you the perk sound. Actually, I don't think I showed it to you. I used the sample one with one of my favorite perk sounds, Nick Myra YSL perk. And I think there was another sound I didn't show you here. Let's see. Perk. There was a second perk. So I used another sample one, and it's Affinity 11, which is like a shaker sound. And I'm going to solo it here real quick. It was perk A. So let's hear that. So it's like a tambourine kind of sound. Anyways, that's that. So once I put in all the drum patterns for the chorus, I added that Omnisphere tickle here, just to have a little more energy right in the center of the chorus and to mix it up a little. Back into the verse now. By the way, I'm using a lot of rising effects, and the down sweep only comes in at the half point of the chorus. So midway in the chorus, the down sweep comes in right after a riser. And actually, I used it one last time here in the outro, it looks like. The beat tag, I used it twice. One time in the intro, one time in the outro. This microphone stuff is to be ignored because this was just for the purpose of the video to give you an example of what this beat can turn into. I mean, it was a standard arrangement, really. There's not much more to say about this. The outro is just a drop in energy. I start taking the energy down slowly. And it's really trial and error. So let me go ahead and get into the mixer now. So let's go ahead and close the pack folders. And I'm going to start with the bass sound. So let's jump into the mixer. And here in purple, I have all the bass sounds that I used. So starting with the 808. Before I bounced it to a wave, I used a decapitator. And I almost always use decapitator just to give the sound a little more high-end distortion. Alright, once I bounced it to a wave file, I started really mixing it. So I started with a fab filter, which should always be at the bottom. It looks like I messed up throughout. The fab filter should be at the bottom because you want all the frequencies below this point to be taken out, as well as up here. I did the Angel technique from BusyWorks Beats. If you guys want to see some more videos about this technique, BusyWorks Beats is the best place to go for this. Alright, so after I did that, I added another, it looks like here I did two. Huh. Oh, I did a limiter. Interesting. Let me show you what I used here. I did a FabFilter Pro L with the bass dynamic preset, and I believe I messed around with something, the look ahead or something. Alright, I don't really remember why I did that. I think I wanted to keep the volume at a more stable range. Alright, so moving on, I used another bass. Hold up a second, for the verse. Let me hear what that sounds like real quick, because I just remembered I used two bass sounds. So I actually used a sub-boom bass, and I used a sequence preset. So let me show you what that sounds like here. So basically it was a sequence preset, and this is the sequence that was used. And I also messed around with the waveform. I believe I changed it. But yeah, I decided that pattern sounded really cool in the verse, so I put it in there just to switch it up. So it's not the 808 playing throughout the whole thing. Let's see. For sub-boom bass, I started with a decapitator, just like I did with the 808, to give it some high-end distortion. And then I bounced it to a WAV file, and I added looks like I added the same stuff. Let me double check though. Yep, FabFilter Pro L. I added the same stuff, I'm pretty sure. And then I did a different type of EQ. I did this by ear a little bit. I felt like this area here needed a boost while this needed a cut. And another thing I did was I added a compressor. And I did that for the sidechain. So this is a sidechain compressor. I added the input here for the sidechain. I adjusted the attack and the release. And let me open up the drum kit so I can show you how it's sidechained to the kick. So in brown here, you see the kick sound. I have one of my sends is a sidechain to the 808, and the other send is a sidechain to the subboom bass. Now let's transition into the drum sounds. So for that kick, I immediately bounced it to a wave, and I put in a FabFilter Pro Q with the Angel method as well. And I also put in a sausage fattener, and I gave it about, let's see here, 5% fatness and 10% color. And that's all I did for the kick. So let's move on to the snare. The snare, I panned it a little bit to the left, about 18. Here's something interesting. I used a new mixing tool that I got, Neutron 2. And Neutron 2 is incredible for beginners. So if you're starting out, you have no idea what you're doing when you're mixing, grab Neutron 2. It's a little pricey, but I think it's worth it because for this simple feature right here, you click on Track Assistant, you choose the sound that you're going for. So in this case, it was a percussion, and the style that you want and the intensity. When you click Next and you play that sound, it will actually adjust all the settings to that sound. So I'll show you a better example of that later on, because I don't think I used it actually for the snare. So I used an instance of Virtual Mix Rack from Slate Digital, and all I did was put a revival to add some shimmer and thickness. I then capped it off with a fab filter, standard low cut, and a little bit of a raise in the section where it needed it. And that's it for the snare. For the clap now, I used another instance of Neutron 2 using the same technique, percussion, and I had it automatically detect the settings for me. And here's a good example of what it looks like now. Once you click Learn, you can also fine tune it. So for example, this has several different effects going on at once. We have an equalizer. This is what the EQ looks like. Then we have an exciter after that. Then we have a compressor and another compressor on top of that. And it was all done automatically for me. So after that, I have the standard low cut fab filter, and it looks like I screwed up because I didn't do anything to it, so I messed up. Neutron 2 for the clap B. So the clap sounds, I do not pan. I did not pan the clap because I want it to be right down the middle. I used another instance of Neutron 2 for the second clap sound. And that second clap sound is going to be playing during the verse sections. So I did the same thing, track assistant, equalizer, exciter, and 2 compressors. And I also did that's right, I messed up on that. So, hold on, that was clap B. Clap B, I did a low cut. I also did a virtual mix rack, actually, for the clap sound. I did a revival with some thickness, and I also did a compressor with the snare preset, and the attack all the way down, release all the way up. I also switched it to the second circuit. Now then, to the hi-hat. The hi-hat was panned to the right, 15. I used a Neutron 2. And it takes a little while to load up, so I think I'm just gonna stop showing it because it's basically the same thing, just you know, little adjustments here and there because I used the track assistant. I used another low cut fab filter, standard stuff. Did the exact same thing with the perk, you know, the same instance of Neutron with the mastering preset. And here I did the same low cut, adjusted to the frequencies. The second perk sound, all I did for this one was a fab filter, low cut, as you see here. Okay, I'm gonna talk about the I might as well talk about the microphone right now. So all I did for the microphone was I added an auto tune. And I learned that having an auto tune directly on the mic is better than putting it on after you sing. So I put the key in E flat minor, which is D sharp minor, pretty much the same thing. And I adjusted the retune speed to be a little bit lower so that my voice isn't robotic, but at the same time it stays within key. And I also humanized to sound more realistic. All right. Let's see here. Let me show you what I did for the actual mic, if I can. It looks like that's all I did, just the auto tune actually. Yeah, that's all I did. I remember now, that's all I did. Okay, so let's move on to the next part. Now that we got all the drums out of the way, by the way, I panned the perk left 21, and perk B I panned it 15 to the right. The hi-hat was also panned 15 to the right. Okay, so now let's move on to the instruments. For the Omnisphere, I used an instance of Virtual Mix Rack with FGN EQ with the synth lead push preset, as well as some fine tuning. And then I put in a compressor with piano smooth, attack all the way down, release all the way up, second circuit. Then I added a sonic maximizer, which is like my secret weapon now, as you've seen in my previous video. Guitar acoustic preset. And after that, I put in the Fab Filter low cut. And that's all I did for the Omnisphere. Now, moving on to Settle Down A. For this one, I did quite a bit. I did a sonic maximizer with the guitar acoustic preset, my secret weapon. Then I put in an Ozone 8 imager to give it some more stereo width, and I wanted enhanced space. That's why when you hear this beat on your phone, you're gonna realize that it sounds more dreamlike. It sounds more washed, kind of like water. And that's kind of where I got the name Lagoon for the beat title. So anyways, I then did FabFilter Pro Q low cut. And I added a send to the Echo Boy and a send to the Pan Man. And I'll show you later on the effects for those two. Now moving, let's see here. I did not pan it. For the next one, I used another sonic maximizer with the secret weapon here, guitar acoustic. I used Ozone 8 imager with the spacious high end because I wanted more high end frequencies to be affected. I then added a low cut as well as raising some more of the high end up 3 dB. I added an Echo Boy with a little more, actually the same Echo Boy, a little more Pan Man because I wanted it to pan more. And no panning at all actually for this part. Now the next one is the reverse sound. For the reverse sound, I used the same maximizer preset, guitar acoustic, and another FabFilter Pro Q low cut, and as well as a Pan Man send. And those are all the instruments. As you can see here, they're all routed to the instrument bus channel. Moving on to the pad sounds. For the pad sounds, I instantly bounced the contact sound, and I did a Neutron 2, and I did the same thing I was talking about earlier. You know, I did the Trackmaster. It takes so long to load, so I'm not even going to show it. It's basically right there. And the FabFilter Pro Q. Then I'm sorry, I clicked the wrong one here. I added a FabFilter Pro Q, but this is actually what it looks like right here. So I did some fine tuning here. The Ozone 8 imager was placed before that, and I placed it there for some enhanced space. No panning to that sound. For the exhale, I instantly bounced it to a wave file. I started with a Neutron 2, and I accidentally clicked it, so now we have to wait for it to load. And here it is. As you can see, it's a little different. The equalizer, compressor. It actually only used an equalizer, a compressor, a second compressor, and then the exciter at the end. so it's a little different. Then we put in an Ozone 8 imager with enhanced space to give it more stereo width. And we capped it off with a FabFilter Pro Q with a low cut and a bit of a high raise here, 3 dB. Okay, so those are all the pad sounds. Almost done here, guys. For the effects, I used a Razer upsweep with nothing on it except the Echo Boy. A little bit of the Echo Boy. No panning. The downsweep did nothing to it. Added the same Echo Boy. No panning. The beat tag, I added an auto tune with E flat minor, 20 retune speed, and nothing on the humanize. That's why it sounds a bit robotic if you really pay attention to it. No panning. And for the mic, I showed you already the auto tune. No panning. And now let's move on to the reverb sounds. I use the standard Valhalla Vintage Verb drum plate that I always use for all my projects. I use the Valhalla Vintage Verb Very Nice Hall, same thing for all my projects. The room reverb, I used the same thing for all my projects, which is the Sarm West Studios Altiverb 7. The Pan Man, I used Sound Toys Pan Man, and I have it going pretty quickly here to give it more stereo width. For the Echo Boy, I'm using the Space Echo preset, which is under the Style Tour category. And I adjusted the output. Let me get out of this menu real quick. I adjusted the output, and that's it. Just to give it some more output, actually, because I wanted it to be quite prominent. Alright, that's the Echo Boy. Alright, so those are all the effects that I used. Now let's move on to the bus channels. The bass bus channel, all I have is a room reverb. Very low amount of reverb. For the drum channel, I'm using a low amount of room and a low amount of plate reverb. For the instrument channel, I'm using a significant amount of room. For the pad channel, I'm using both room and hall, quite a bit of it. I do this because I need the pad sound to have a lot of reverb. Usually pad sounds have the most reverb in my opinion. For the effects, it's pretty much the same as instruments. You know, a significant amount. And I did not use the filter channel for this project because I have no automation on it. And I did not use the filter bypass. I also did not use the mix bus. And I rarely use the mix bus because I actually do my mastering in Ozone 8 Advanced. So that's a different program. While it's true I can master it here, but I'd prefer not to. Just for the CPU purpose. Anyways, these green channels I rarely use just because my projects generally don't take too long. I kind of like to work fast. But normally these would be used to adjust these individual volume levels. Like the bass channel, the drums, you know, the reverb. Now for the master channel, I use the same three I always use, which is the Ozone 8 equalizer. And another shout out to BusyWorks Beats. One of his videos actually taught me this technique, and it's a very valuable technique. So he actually explains it in detail. So head over to his channel and look for that video. But basically I'm doing a brick wall low pass and a brick wall high pass to get rid of frequencies that we can't hear. Now after that I have my Hornet song key that I like to use, and I use this to make sure that I'm staying within the key of the beat. Whoops. And the last one is Sample Grabber, and this is just for a different program, which is a frequency analyzer. And that's it. So that was the beat perception, and I hope you guys learned something today. Let me see here. Let me go back to the intro. All right, and thank you for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.